Hello and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, and today we're talking about those tiny little hairs on the leaves that are not strictly speaking hairs, because hairs are only on animals. They're called trichomes, and we're going to look at their role in both crop protection and the potency of the crop that you get, whether that's a food crop, a smokable crop, a ornamental crop. It could be a fragrant crop. We'll talk about how trichomes influence all of those. So you can see trichomes on the plants, but you might also need a microscope to look at them, or certainly a hand lens. So if you've got a fuzzy, sticky, or crystalline type plant, then it's likely that they're producing trichomes. They play a huge role in how plants defend themselves, express their flavors, and even develop economic value. The primary reason why most of the plants have them is defense. So if you're growing cannabis legally, tomatoes legally, herbs, cucumbers, this episode is essential listening. Also cotton, what else has got trichomes? Nettles. I've grown nettles commercially before as a fiber crop, and that they are very important for trichomes. They're tiny hair-like structures that emerge from the surface of leaves, stems, and flowers, and they serve multiple roles. So chemical defense, they secrete resins, acids, oils, and other phytochemicals that can have an effect on a plant. Think of a nettle that's not really a resin or an acid or an oil, but it produces a compound that is extremely, irritating. Yeah. They provide physical defense, so they can act as barriers to insects, and so you can stop certain pests from attacking you by having plants that are attacking your crop by them producing trichomes. And they could potentially also regulate the microclimate by reducing water loss, reducing the light intensity. So trichomes are very important on plants that inhabit sand dunes because there's very high light intensity, there's no canopy. And also they can make the leaf hydrophobic, so droplets of water just run off without them actually producing waxes and chemicals that are hydrophobic. If you think of a lupin leaf is not got waxes in that prevent it hydrophobic. It's got loads of hairs on the leaf, loads of trichomes that just make the droplets roll off. And so the beauty of that is the air can still diffuse in, but so if it was covered in waxes, that couldn't happen. And so you have air and movement, water and gaseous exchange, but also keep the water off the leaf. And water on the leaves is always bad for plants because it means that fungal diseases their spores can germinate and get into the stomata. So you don't want droplets on the leaf. There are a number of different types of trichomes. There's stalked, simple trichomes like on a nettle. There's sessile ones that lie down, glandular ones that are full of active ingredients, non-glandular ones. What other types have we got? Scale ones that look a bit like a mushroom, branched trichomes. There are loads of different types. So get your hand lens and have a look at your plants and see how many different types of trichomes you can find. Can you only find one, or are there multiple types? So the non-glandular types, often simple hairs like on lupin, mechanical defense, and also environmental control. Cucumber spines are very big trichomes. If you think on the stem and then also on the leaves of the cucumbers leaves are hairy or bristly, and they're trichomes. You can get branched or stellate. Stellate means star trichomes. They're like those on cotton or tomato leaves. So tomato leaves, again, you find lots of trichomes. Even on the fruit, they might be washed off when you get them in the supermarket. But if you grow tomatoes, you will notice that they've got glistening trichomes all over them. That's why I tend not to wash my tomatoes when I take them off and feed them to my kids, because I think there must be some good phytochemicals in the tomatoes there. Obviously not choosing ones that haven't been splashed with any fertilizer or anything, or soil or grow media. Scale or shield ones, they're mainly used to help reduce evaporation and reflect light. Often plants can look silvery because of these trichomes, when actually if you remove the trichomes, you find the green chlorophyll containing cells underneath. Glandular trichomes also, they can have different types of glands on them. Capitate stalked, they're found on cannabis and tomato plants. In cannabis, it's cannabinoids, terpenes and oils. In tomatoes, it's probably just terpenes and oils. Capitate, sessile. These are the dome-shaped ones. Sit directly on the plant surface. Sessile means that they are, lying down almost, or down. Peltate trichomes are multicellular disc-like structures found in herbs like mint and basil that provide the flavours of mint and basil, the aromatic compounds in these herbs. Trichomes are crucial to them. And then bulbous trichomes, the smallest, producing trace volatiles, maybe for bespoke uses. So each type has evolved to defend plants against specific pressures, whether that's UV radiation, fungal spores, insect attack, mites, things like this. We talked in the past about broad mites and how they were so small they can hide under the trichomes. So there can be a disadvantage of trichomes in certain situations. In legal cannabis production, though, trichomes determine everything from harvesting time to end market value because the cannabinoids are in there, the likes of THC, CBD, if you think of three letters and it starts with a C and ends with a D, it's in there. CGD, is that one? Are produced inside the glandular trichomes, and that's where the conversion from all the different cannabinoids occurs. Also, it's where the terpenes hang out. So the terpenes can be a very, very high contribution to aroma and flavour. And the trichomes change colour from clear to cloudy to amber to signal the optimum time for harvesting those crops. So that will be every agronomist in a grow in America, and all the legal cannabis growers will know when to harvest them based on the trichomes. You don't harvest them when they senesce, the plants senesce. You don't harvest them as soon as they flower or when they're about to produce seed like you would with another crop. It's the actual trichomes that change colour rather than the flower itself and the bud. So and then because they are trichomes and they have a very high silica content, silica nutrition is very important in those crops, where trichomes are the harvestable crop, and they are damaged. Silica is very delicate. Obviously, it's like glass. And so when you harvest the crop, you have to handle them very, very carefully if you don't want to damage the trichomes. That's why I said tomatoes don't have trichomes on them when you get them from the supermarket, because they've all been crushed and moved off by them. And then sometimes you might even process them to just get the trichomes, remove all the plant material and just have the trichomes. I won't go into what that's called and how that's done and things like that, because I might get banned. So let's keep it all legal and safe. Food crops and trichomes, let's get onto safer ground there. Many food crops depend on trichomes. Tomatoes use acid-filled trichomes to deter insects. Herbs like mint and basil, we said, they have peltate trichomes for the essential oils, so they'll be removed if you made like mint oil or basil oil. If you infused your tea, all that flavour's coming out of the trichomes. And then in cucumbers, it wards off the pests. It keeps the leaves nice and dry if any rain gets on them. Did you know that cotton is a fibre made entirely of trichomes that go on the seeds in the bolls of the flowers? So trichomes are everything in cotton. And then I said in other fibre crops like nettle, they're very important because they ward off pests, including humans. And then another fibre crop, hemp, very important again, but for pest control. So yeah, lots of fibre crops, trichomes are very important. I'm trying to think of one that's not. Maybe New Zealand flax. That's a monocot, like a grass-like plant. Trichomes are not as important in the monocots than the dicots. So there you go. There's a fibre crop where the fibres certainly not. They're not trichomes in New Zealand flax. And so cotton and hemp and nettles are very important. So they can block it. They can block and trap insects. In things like sundews, then the trichomes actually contain sticky substances that trap an insect. So the carnivorous plant will have the stickiness in there, the oils that will trap the insect, and then also the enzymes and the acids that will break the insect down and feed it to the plant. Or there might be chemicals that repel herbivores and pathogens. There might be trichomes that help with pollination and attracting pollinators. I don't know if that's true or not, so I just made it up on the spot. Maybe someone like Jeff Oleroyd in Northampton University could help with that one. They can reflect UV radiation, UV rays, reduce transpiration by keeping the air still around the epidermis of the leaf, or even keeping the leaf droplets off the plant, maintain leaf microclimates, and they've evolved with the plant to their perfect environmental conditions. So environmental factors that can increase or suppress trichome development. UVB light increases glandular trichomes. So if you're looking to increase your glandular trichomes on your herbs, like your basil, you might want to include a UVB light in your grow room. Potassium and sulfur nutrition are thought to be key to oil and terpene biosynthesis. So lots of potassium and sulfur products are used as additives in flowering. Reducing the humidity encourages defense development. That's one of the reasons you reduce humidity as you get into flowering and fruiting. The other is because you don't want to be spraying fungicides on your crop, and you don't want to encourage molds. So that's another reason to reduce the humidity. And a mild physical or thermal stress can sometimes enhance secretions. So one of the things I like to do is just rub a few leaves on my plants every day if I'm looking to increase trichome or oil production or terpene production, just to give it a little stress and let the systemic signals travel around the plant saying, we're under attack, increase our oil and terpene production. And they think that they're being damaged, and in actual fact, it's just me rubbing the plants every day. Good reason to get into your grow room every day. Check your plants for pest and disease. Give them a little rub to increase their defense response. Just don't water them every day unless you're growing in full hydroponics. If you're growing in cocoa, don't water them every day. If you're obviously NFT or DWC, you're watering them constantly, all the time. So don't worry about that. But if you're soil cultivation or cocoa cultivation or peat cultivation, don't water them every day. You will get serious issues with waterlogging. Genetics still plays a very large role. So you might want to choose a high trichome producing species if they are of interest to you. If you wanted to protect them, avoid mechanical brushing and crushing during harvest, cold processing to extract and preserve the structures, choose a gentle drying method. Things like, does tobacco have trichomes? Is that trichome based? If so, make sure you look at that. I won't go into any more of that. And processing, so they're small, they've got huge value. From cannabis resin to tomato insect defense, basil aromatics to cotton, trichomes are where the magic happens. I'm Dr. Russell Sharp, the inventor of liquid gold, as it's called in the UK, or gold leaf in the US. If you're producing a trichome-heavy crop, then that would be a good one to choose because it contains every essential plant nutrient, including potassium and sulfur, in very ample amounts. So thanks for tuning into Hydroponics Daily. And if you've got any questions, let me know. If you think I've missed anything out, then I'm more than happy to do a clarification or a correction on a future episode. And if this has been of interest, please share it with any fellow growers of trichome producing crops. Goodbye. Oh, before I go, I don't know why they're called trichomes. Why has it got 3 in their name? Yeah, let's have a look. It just means from the ancient Greek word trichoma, meaning hair. Oh, so I don't think it's got anything to do with 3. So yeah, I always wondered that. But yeah, trichome. I thought it might be something to do with colour, like chrome. But no, it's a false friend, as they call it in French, a word where you think it has a meaning, but it doesn't. So trichome just means hair. And everyone says, oh, trichomes are not hairs. Well, actually, it comes from the ancient Greek for hair. So stuff that up your proverbial. Anyway, that's enough waffling from me. Until tomorrow, that's been Hydroponics Daily.